Welcome to this episode with Brandi Babin, where we are going to dive into her healing journey and hear all about the moments that were impactful as she started to find clarity and wake up to her life and choose to live consciously. Brandi, I'm so excited that you are here. How are you, sister?
I'm so good. I'm honored to be here. Honestly, I love you and I love your work and what you're doing. So I'm excited.
Me too. Me too. I know we have a lot in common with our stories, so I'm excited to be able to talk about that more free form in our episode today.
Yes.
Let's start with you just introducing where you are currently in the world and the work that you are doing.
Perfect. So yes, like she said, my name is Brandi Babin, and I started a company just based on my own healing and my own hurt. It's called Reclaim LLC. It stemmed from a journal that I actually drafted for myself, just because every journal I was looking at didn't quite fit where I was. I was in a very unique place, as
Yeah.
well, I'm sure we'll get into. So some things were not deep enough, some things were too deep, some things didn't have enough lines, and some did, and too many boxes to check or not enough. So I really just drafted my own journal, and I took pieces of what I was learning and healing through and put it into the journal. As I started sharing it with other women who were struggling, they kept saying, you should publish this. So I pushed back a lot, but I had a lot of great people who believed in me, and it is published now. So I'm officially the author of the Reclaim Journal, and now I just offer coaching going along with the journal, and so I'm helping people heal the way I did. So yeah, technically a mindset coach and author of the Reclaim Journal.
Oh, and your journal is beautiful. Like when I got to actually see it in person, I was like, this is like not just a journal. This is like a work of art that you
I
get to
love
write
it. Thank
into.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yes. Yes. And the whole or the cover, if I'm remembering correctly, has the kintsugi like gold.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about kintsugi and why that means something to you in your journey.
Right. Oh my gosh, it's so funny because I stumbled upon it. I had no idea what it was. I was actually on Pinterest looking for color schemes to use for my branding.
Yeah.
And I saw this really pretty gold running through, and it said, "You are more beautiful because you are broken." And I was like, what does that mean? So I clicked on it. Apparently, kintsugi is a Japanese form of artwork
Yeah.
where when something is broken, like an ancestral vase or, those big urns, they don't just throw it away, and they don't just glue it together to try to hide the cracks. They actually use gold luster in the glue or the lacquer probably, to get it back together into where it looks really beautiful. And it's actually part of the story versus trying to hide the trauma. You just use it kind of like we're doing to shed light on the situation, bring awareness, and just be confident in that uniqueness. And so I was like, what a perfect thing for the cover.
Yes, I love that. I love that message of not only are you not broken, but you're more beautiful
Yes,
because of the cracks, because of the experience, because of, the journey. So
exactly.
let's give the audience a little bit of an overview of your journey. So where do you want to start sort of the story of your awakening and maybe more of when you were asleep?
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, you know, I was so taken by surprise by the being asleep part, because I was always, a very athletic and smart and driven and compassionate person as a young adult and even as a child growing up into early adulthood. And so when I came upon this relationship, it felt very different. I can just say it felt very different. And I took the difference to mean this must be that special thing that people talk about, this like love at first sight, Hallmark movie, fairy tale kind of thing. And so I didn't think anything of it. It moved extremely fast.
Mhm.
It was extremely fun. I mean, euphoria, everything I had ever dreamed of as a little girl, was coming true right before my eyes. I just couldn't believe how blessed I was. I gave all glory to God, like, oh my gosh, he's blessing me. And so, yeah, that sleepiness, it helped shade a lot of the red flags that started popping up
Mhm.
And I noticed every single one of them. I can tell you I noticed every single one of them, and I was like,
Yeah.
That's a little different. But because I was, compassionate and honest and good at communicating, I would say, like, this doesn't feel right. What's going on? And of course, there was always an answer. There was always
Mhm.
some sort of explanation as to why that red flag was there and that it was nothing I needed to worry about. And so, as I went on, the cycle of narcissism began, the trauma bonding happened, and then it became a dangerous thing to leave, or a more so, if he's this bad when I'm here, imagine how bad it will be if I'm gone. And then the whole Pandora's box opens up, as we all know.
Yeah. Yeah. That moment of when you're out of it or a little bit removed from the relationship and you can look back and be like, I saw every red flag.
Yep.
I literally every client that I've worked with has been able to say that and they're like, why did I see it and not acknowledge it? And
Hmm.
I want to bring an important point to what you just said, where you, in your case, you did acknowledge those things or you brought them up to him.
Yep.
And he was a skilled manipulator, as a lot of narcissists are,
Yes.
and made you believe that they were not anything to be concerned about, right?
And on top of that, that I was very over dramatic, and it was because of my mom and my upbringing,
Yeah.
and that I've been deceived my whole life by my family.
Yeah.
And, but he's there for me. Don't worry. He's
Mhm.
here. He's going to help me see, he's going to help me be a better person. And, I would say, like, I've never had a relationship that felt like this though. And he's like, yeah, because nobody ever challenged you before. They just worship the ground you walk on. And
Yeah.
now you have somebody that's wanting to challenge you, make you better. And you're just not
Mhm.
used to that because you've been dating men that are weak. And, just wow, just yes, lots of deception. And
Yeah.
because I was so self-reflective, I was like, okay, maybe I do need to look at that. Maybe I'm not as cool as I thought I was. Maybe
Mhm.
lots of maybes.
Yes. Yes. I think like when you're gaslit, it it's so insidious because it's like plausible, right?
Hmm.
Like some of the
Yeah.
things where like they'll spin you around and say, well, it's your relationship with your mother. And you're like, well, that relationship is kind of fucked up. Maybe it is like, and then you start to like create that as your like the confusion and the sucking of the sense of self that happens in that is insane.
And the thing that makes them so good at it is they take little bits of truth and
Yeah.
then make a story out of it. And
Yeah.
so it's validating the truth part, where that's where it makes you think, like, well, that part is true. So maybe it's all true.
Yep.
And that's where they get you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you being a introspective woman who is willing to take accountability, this was my experience too, where it's like we take too much accountability, where it was like, oh, this all must be my fault. And the whole other part of like, oh, they're supposed to take accountability and be at fault sometimes too. Like that just wasn't that wasn't a part of the relationship. So a
Right.
little bit of overcorrecting. Was that your experience too?
Yes, and just I did try to present the fact that yes, I'm taking responsibility for my part, but also you need to. And that's actually where we got in a lot of our fights, is because I'm stubborn and I am pretty confident. So I'm not afraid to confront.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because when I was talking to my therapist, she's like, at first I thought you were codependent, but I don't think you have very many symptoms of codependency. I think that this was just, it was an early, me and him, we dated in high school and he broke my heart. And so she thinks it was kind of a pull to prove that I was good enough for him later on. This is 10 years later, so
Yeah.
she thinks that's part of why I got pulled into that. But, I still tried to say, like, hey, we both need to take weight in this. I'm understanding of what a healthy relationship looks like, and it sounds like you're not. But every single conversation ended 3 or 4 hours later
Hmm.
about my family, my character flaws,
Yeah.
everything. So yeah, it was always ending with making sure I knew that I was the problem.
Yeah. Did you have that experience of like ending a fight, being like, what the fuck were we even fighting about?
Yeah.
Like whatever was the initial like catalyst was not what the ending was. And
So many times.
it's so confusing.
Even during the conversation, would be like an hour in, and I'm like, what were we even oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what can we stay on track here? Oh my gosh, so many
Yeah.
times. So many times.
I get asked a lot what the red flags are of relationships. And like, if you're listening and you leave conversations often more confused than clear, that is a red flag. That is
Oh
like
yes.
number one. If you're unsure what just happened in every interaction where you're trying to bring something up that's important to you,
Yeah.
it's a good sign that you're likely being manipulated.
I'll never forget my first argument with my healthy relationship. I was like, hey, when you said this, it made me think this, and it really hurt my feelings. And he was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I did not intend for that to sound like that. I am not going to do that again. And I was like, that's it. Is the conversation over?
Yeah.
Then
We don't need to fight for 3 hours and then we
I was
leave.
waiting for, like, I was ready. I was like, if he says this, I'm gonna say this. And if he says
Yeah.
this, I'm gonna say this. And I'm not doing this again. And if he tries to do this, I'm out. And he's just like, I'm sorry. I'm like, okay.
And it's a little
That's
bit
nice.
jarring, isn't it? To like be
Yeah.
so accustomed to one type of interacting and fighting and then be in a healthy relationship and be like, this is easier. Like, I mean, it takes effort, obviously, but not the same intense effort that goes into a dysfunctional relationship.
Yeah, it's an effort to understand each other versus an effort to preserve your own sanity
Yeah.
and safety. It's very different effort.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to go into a little bit more detail around the love bomb phase because people that I work with and that come to me with questions are confused of what is love bombing versus what is falling in love.
Mm.
Because there's always that part of like you're so addicted to each other and it's euphoric, and in your experience and now having the healthy relationship and the unhealthy, like what were some of the big like that was
Different.
really not normal or
I can tell you that looking at the two now, I'll just use one example that sheds a whole lot of light on everything. When I started dating my abuser, he agreed with everything I wanted for my future. Everything I wanted was exactly what he wanted.
yeah.
And it was just divine intervention, just like a lot of, I'm a very faith-filled person and I talk about my faith a lot. And he started using that as this is a God thing. God told me, I prayed for this. This is the sign I had, like so much of that. And then of course a ton of just praise for every little thing I did, just how successful, how smart, everything. When I started dating the healthy relationship, I said, hey, I'm super religious. And he's like, I'm not. So that's a problem. Like, just letting you know now, that was like, although it creates some sort of, conversations that are uncomfortable at times, it was so relieving to me to have somebody say, I disagree with you. I'm different, but I think this could still work. I'm just telling you, like, that's not where I'm at and that's not where I'm going.
Yep.
That was so nice because it told me that, okay, you're your own person, you have your own life, and you're not going to play all these tricks on me.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the love bombing is, yes, they create, if you're with somebody and they're creating for you euphoric dream life, like, what is it called? Future faking, like
Mm-hmm.
forecasting this dream life. That's a total red flag if they're already talking about this dream future with you and trying to make you see it, imagery, all of these things in the first, like, this is the first like 3 months.
Yeah.
On our first date, he was talking about, I think you feel what I'm feeling, like, you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
like total red flag. On me and my healthy guy's first date, it was like just very comfortable. Like, just, there wasn't a future talk. There wasn't like, I'm so in love with you. It was like, I didn't hate that. Like, we should try it again.
I didn't hate that. That's
I
perfect.
didn't I didn't hate that at
Yeah.
all. That was
Yeah.
actually pretty terrible. We've both been through the ringer, right? So we're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, that didn't make me wanna throw up. Try it again and see if I wanna throw up next time."
I didn't get the heebie-jeebies. I didn't like pull away when he tried to give me a hug or shake my hand or whatever. Like, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. That super hard, super fast. The I love yous on the first date, the moving in after a month or two, or like, yeah, outlining your entire life and why you're perfect. It was a lot of pedestal, like him putting me on the pedestal in the beginning.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yep.
Which in turn, I guess, made me put him on a pedestal, right? And it was just this like
Yeah.
mutual dysfunctional view of each other.
Yeah, somebody told me, no, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about euphoria and people always say, well, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave? And in that early stage, it's like, well, that would have been really dumb to leave.
Yeah.
He was literally handing me my dream life on a platter. Why
Yeah.
would I leave? You
Yeah.
just for a few red flags, like you got to take with the good with the bad, you got to give and like a healthy person understands compromise and you're not going to love everything about them. And then if they're handing you euphoria, why would you be like, no, thanks? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're not like aware that that's not something that is normal.
Right.
Because in what you shared earlier of like he was telling you, well, you just haven't been in this type of relationship, this true love before.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I
got
hadn't been in an abusive relationship, so I didn't
yes.
know. Like this
Yeah.
was my first and only one. And
Yeah.
I know sometimes people get in a pattern. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. And in what you're used to before, like if you have been in relationships where maybe you were the one always trying to get the man's attention or trying to be the one that was chosen, and then all of a sudden you're with this person who's like in love with you and you're my queen and we're going to be together forever and all of the things you're like, it feels good. It feels fucking good.
Introduce me to your parents right away,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. We were engaged within 10 months and married 10 months later. Yeah, it's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
very quick.
Very quick. Yeah.
And
So
anytime I did bring stuff up, we would have this big fight. He would make me feel awful. And then the next day, lots of special treatment, make you coffee, bring you something, bring you a rose, little
mhm.
sweet things in the text messaging, long, elaborate emails about dreams he had about us and our future. You know what I mean? Just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
fairy tale stuff. Fairy
Yeah.
tale stuff.
It is. It is. Where were you in your sort of self-awareness journey when you first met or when you were first reconnected? Because you said you had met in high school. But like
Yes.
what was going on in your world outside of the relationship when he came in?
A lot of confusion about my purpose and like what I was supposed to do. I had just gotten out of a 4 year long relationship and then tried dating again and didn't feel a lot.
Mhm.
So I was like, man, I feel like you're supposed to feel something, And now I'm like 25 years old, 26 years old. I feel like I should already have a family by now or at least be married. So I was worried about running out of time. Um, but I was very strong in like who I was. I was just kind of like lost in like where I was supposed to go next. It was
Mhm.
like that transitional, like just graduated college. Now what do I do? And
Mhm.
I'm single. So really now what do I do? So it
Yes.
was like he called right during that time when I was like, I think I'm just gonna try to be single for a while
Mm.
and then just try to find myself again and see what I'm supposed to do. And then people always say, like, as soon as you stop looking, Prince Charming shows up. And so I just thought, oh, this is what everyone talks about.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was just kind of at a crossroads where I was like, I loved myself. I was confident. I
Mhm.
just didn't know where to go next or what God wanted me to do next. And so I was kind of open to whatever came
Mhm.
along.
Mhm. And
And
how far into the relationship did you start to feel that confidence like dismantling?
3 months.
3 months?
3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. What was sort of the shift? What was sort of the like, or were you aware of it being a bad thing?
I broke up with him. Yeah.
Mhm.
At 4 months, I broke up with him.
Okay.
And So we were long distance for 3 months, which I think is very easy for them to keep a facade up.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do when you only have to talk to him on the phone once a day.
Mm-hmm.
So when I moved over to the Front Range to be closer to him, that's when he started getting more irritable. He started asking me questions about who I was talking to, started asking to see my phone, things like that. And I was like, what is going on? And then he would tell me, you're not allowed to say I love you to any other guys but me. Because we had already been saying I love you at this point. It's 3 months in.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I have guy friends that I've had since I was like 8 they're like cousins to me. I'm not going to stop saying I love you. 2 hour talk later, and he made me feel very guilty and that, this was against all of what I believed in. But then he had a girlfriend that he said I love you to regularly. And he said, well, that's different.
Of course.
It's not though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So anyway, my friend came in from Nebraska and she noticed all the red flags within 24 hours and was like, no, you need him to go. You're done.
Yeah.
And so she's a very persuasive friend. And so I said, okay. And so I broke up with him. We stayed broken up for about a week. And then he got a nice little plan together to get me back, and it worked. And
yeah. Yeah.
should have stayed gone.
Talk about that. Talk about the hook back in. Was it,
Okay.
if you feel comfortable talking about sort of what you knew to be true versus what was being presented to you, and that disparity between, like, if you had an intuitive, this was bad, but you did it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I left him 4 times before I finally stayed down. So the 5th time I left, I was finally my last one. So each followed the same pattern. And this first one was no different. So back when I walked into his house to give his key back, I was going through and looking for my stuff. And he had 2 big walls of mirrors, and he had written all over them with dry erase marker. It was the weirdest, creepiest thing I've ever seen. So that should have been like psychopath warning. Anyway, but a week later, I saw him and his family in church, and nobody said anything to me till the end. His dad came up and asked if I was okay. And I said, yes, I'm fine. He said, I'm only going to ask you one more time. Are you okay? And I started crying because of course it's sad. You just gave up your dream life. This is what I thought my future was. And here I am again. 6 years old, alone I just moved over here for this dude. I know nobody here. Now I have no friends, no family, a brand new job, and I'm alone. So I was sad, and so I started crying, and he said, do you want to come to breakfast with us? Aaron wants you to come. And I said, I don't know, and then that longing for companionship and somewhere to belong came trotting in, and I said, I'll go to breakfast. Of course, it was beautiful. Everyone was laughing. It was just a great time. And then afterwards, Aaron said, can we talk? So we sat in the car, we talked, and I basically told him, I'm not living this way. This is not healthy. It's not okay. What you do to me, what you say to me, the things that you try to make me believe are not okay. I can't do it. And he was like, you're right. And so this was he started crying. You're so right. You deserve better. I know I can be that. I've just had a hard time with work lately. Things have been really stressful. Because the first 3 months were amazing, that it can be that way. And this is just a hiccup. It's just a bad little, and you're right. You're right. I have not been treating you right. And you're right. I didn't trust you. And there's no reason for me not to. It's just that my last relationships were really hard, and I got cheated on several times. And I just sometimes, I don't know how to handle that. Just, oh my gosh. So of course he's crying, right? And I'm like, okay, if everything you're saying is true, then I get it. You've been stressed, you've been cheated on, you've been hurt, you've been heartbroken. I'm not that person. So yeah, if we can try again, but I'm telling you, if you do this, this, and this again, I'm out. And of course, absolutely, you have every right to be. And that's how it was every time.
Yeah. And what made you believe that next time was going to be different? I think that's an important part.
I didn't know that there were narcissists in the world.
Yeah.
I was listening to him as if he was just like me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I was crying, telling somebody, "I'm so sorry, you're right. I screwed up,
Yeah.
but I love you more than anything on this earth, and I'll do anything it takes to make sure that you know that now, and I really see what I did wrong, and I'm gonna fix it." And I'm that person. Like, if
Mhm.
I wrong you
Mhm.
and I feel bad enough that I'm gonna cry, like,
Yeah.
I know I messed up and it's my fault, and I will fix it. And
Yeah.
I believed him based on I thought he was just like me. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until the third time I left that I started believing and understanding what narcissism was.
Yeah.
And at that time I had kids, so there was a whole nother
Oh,
level of, oh crap,
yeah.
it's not just me I have to think about now. And so the third time I left, I knew I should have stayed gone. However, I knew that if my kids asked me one day, why did you leave? I would be able to, I wanted to say I tried everything. So I
Mhm.
said, okay, let's try counseling, marriage counseling. Tried that, didn't work, left. Okay, let's try, there was one other thing. Maybe the other one was counseling. The first one was like family of origin, a family mission statement. There was a few things that I asked for. And then the fourth time was counseling. The fifth time I was absolutely
Yeah.
sure that there was nothing else I could try.
Mhm.
He bruised my child, so I was like, nope.
Yeah.
I had been praying for some sort of mark on me of like I was hoping it would be on me, but I didn't specify in my prayers.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it would be no. I think if
Yeah.
it, I think it took, and my kids have saved me several times in
Mhm.
my life. So the fact that it was on my daughter was like, I can't go back. Like for
Yeah.
her, I can't go, but like for her. Now
Yeah.
it's I'm leaving for the kids instead of I'm staying for the kids.
Yeah.
That was the
Oh
difference.
my gosh. What I mean, you said so many important things there, but I think it's so hard for us, and I'll put my obviously in that same boat of like when I'm sharing vulnerably and crying, it's because I'm trying to be vulnerable and real. It's not a manipulation.
Exactly.
And giving everybody the benefit of the doubt and more or less being a little bit naive of that there are these types of people in the world that cannot meet you vulnerably and that they have to manipulate in order to survive, right? And there's a
Exactly.
lot of deep psychology around why narcissists are the way they are, but I struggled with that too in not understanding that somebody could have malicious intent and not
Exactly.
understanding that they weren't trying their best or that they were stringing me along or playing me the fool or whatever.
Trying to get
And
away,
in what?
yeah. Trying to get away with the lifestyle that
Yeah.
is less what is it? Just a more comfortable lifestyle.
Hmm.
As comfortable as they can make it.
Yeah. And like I knew that people cheated, I knew that people led double lives, right? But like that's like movie stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And I had never experienced it firsthand. I had never really been even in circles of people where that was like common, right? So to me, that was all not ever going to happen.
Far away.
Too far away. Yes. Yes. And when I try to work with clients who are trying to understand narcissists, I'm like, you are trying to live on another planet.
Yeah.
Like living on like that planet and our planet are different in every way, and trying to figure out why they do what they do is a waste of time.
Exactly.
It's not going to help heal you. It's not going to help you feel better because even if you understand why they're doing it, you can't understand how they're able to do that.
Oh yes.
Like,
I think my favorite healing strategy that my therapist took me through was mourning the loss of the man I thought I
yeah.
fell in love with, because that man was never real, but he
Hmm.
was real to me.
Hmm.
So I had to mourn him as if he died.
Hmm.
And then this new person that's in his place is a complete stranger to me. I have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
And I don't owe him anything. And I don't have to pray for him. And I don't have to wish him well, because I don't pray for or wish well Joe Blow across the street
Yeah.
getting studies, like I don't know that guy. I don't know.
Yep.
Like I
Hmm.
just treat my ex now as if he's a complete stranger. I have no
Yeah.
idea who he is. And I just teach my kids how to handle difficult, toxic people in any walk of life, not necessarily like, saying, here's how to handle your dad. Like I
Mhm.
never do that.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
let my kids know you're going to run into toxic people in your life.
Yeah.
This is what they're going to say, and here's what you're going to do. And then you come tell me.
Yeah.
But but
Yeah.
it's important, yeah, to know how to handle toxicity in any, because they're everywhere.
Yeah. That grieving period is so unique when you've been in these types of relationships, because in any loss, in any ending of a relationship, there's grief, right? There's
Mhm.
always sadness that accompanies something that you had that you no longer have. But with these relationships, it's also grieving the potential land that you have lived in forever.
Yes.
And this story, this fairy tale that you were promised, that
Yep.
you knew to be true at one point, that then got taken away from you,
Mhm.
and grieving the woman that you were in that, or the woman who allowed boundaries to be crossed, or allowed, like, fell for the lies, or however you want to
Yeah. Oh,
categorize it.
I was so mad at myself for so long. And, when we get into like the where I am now,
Hmm.
I'm so uh proud of who I even was during that. Like proud of the compassion that I had for somebody who
Hmm.
didn't deserve it. Like I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of being able to stand up for myself. I'm proud that I asked for help. I'm proud that I put my kids first. And then I'm proud that I put me first. I
Hmm.
mean, I decided I'm going to get a tattoo every year to like recap last year.
Ooh, I like that.
And my tattoo this year is I chose you. And
Mm,
so it's a double meaning. It's like I chose you, like saying it to myself. Like I
yeah,
chose you.
yeah.
And then another part is just my religion is like God chose me. I didn't choose him. He chose me. And I love the idea of God telling me I chose you and I won't abandon you and I will always equip you for what your purpose is. And that's what keeps me like very confident in my own voice and trusting myself even when things don't seem right. If things don't seem right and I'm very confused, the first place I go is into the mirror. And I
Hmm.
just look at myself and I'm like, you know exactly what we need.
Yeah.
You tell me. I don't need to get it from anywhere else but you. So it's very cool because I'm like in this new era of I am my own best friend. I am the person who's here to rescue me. I chose me. Like,
Mhm.
just, oh, it's so beautiful to come into this. And I feel like the last year was the hardest year of my life, financially, not necessarily physically, I guess, but like emotionally, just so much learning and growth and ambition and failure and everything. But it was the happiest year of my life, which is so
Mm,
interesting. It was the most peaceful I've ever been. So, I had everything taken from me and yet found more peace than I'd ever had before. And now, now that I've gone through that, I'm starting to see it all being given back. Like I'm starting to see the trickle of blessings flow in and synchronicities and the law of attraction and quantum
yeah.
physics. I believe in all of that now because it's
Yes.
all just raining down on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just the oh my gosh, the journey of, I guess, forgiving who you thought you were and then realizing that she's always who you were meant to be. You just were seeing her differently,
Yeah.
and I just love the different perspectives. And then, of course, the cord cutting ceremony I did with you
Mm,
completely blew my mind because I totally thought that I would be saying goodbye to a broken, beaten down, sad person. And when I saw her leaving, she was just so grateful and like bright and cheery. Like she was just skipping off, like, thank you.
yeah.
Because yeah, I guess my view of who that person was a weak person, but she never was. She
Mm,
never was weak. She was always grateful, compassionate, loving, bright, driven, ambitious, energetic.
mhm.
Yeah,
And doing the best she had with what she had,
exactly.
right? Like, your ability to reflect back on her now and be like, well, this is what a narcissist is, and this is what you should have seen. It's like, yeah, but you didn't know that in that moment. And you had to go through all of the learnings to be able to get to the place where you are now, even able to look back on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much gratitude for the pain that she went through and
Right.
all of the learning that she did on both of your behalves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I were to tell her thanks for going through all that pain, I see her being like, "You're welcome."
Took one for the team. Yeah.
Yeah. And bye now.
Yeah.
My job is done.
Yeah. 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 It sounds like you came to like a very clear understanding of when the last time was that you were going back, because you were not only protecting yourself, but you were protecting your kids. And
Right.
that had to feel, I'm assuming, terrifying and relieving all in the same
Girl, I did
moment.
not know how I was going to leave, nor did I know how I was going to stay gone. I
Yeah.
didn't know who I was supposed to call, what I was supposed to report,
Hmm.
if I was supposed to be divorced, if I had no idea what to do. I just knew I couldn't stay.
Yeah.
I just knew I couldn't stay. I knew I had to get my kids out of there.
Hmm.
And, my story could probably take way longer than this podcast, but like just to give everybody an idea of what, if you have kids and you leave, what post separation abuse can do to you is really bad. So I just read in a book something that said when you leave an abusive relationship, you're not saying goodbye to the bad parts.
Yeah.
Actually not going to lose the bad parts. You're saying goodbye to the good parts.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so hard to leave.
Yeah.
You're still going to get the bad parts, and when you have kids with them, the bad parts get worse. It gets
Well,
worse. It
and
gets worse.
I'll add into that too. I didn't have kids with my ex, but when I ended it for real, it amplified
Yeah.
everything. The malicious, the anger, the wanting to hurt me, the intentional psychological abuse. Like it went from, if it was at a 7, it went to like a 4,000.
Seriously. Smear
And
campaigns,
yeah.
triangulation,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And then weirdly, more love bombing.
Yeah. Well, I
It's
think it's
trickle
like a
in.
cycle. It's all part of their game of control, right? Like
It
if they're telling you how much a piece of shit you are, they're in control of making you feel bad and then trying to rope you back in and see if you snag, right? It's all a fucking game. It's
Oh yeah.
all a game.
Yep.
And I know that feeling of like I held on to and I was like, I need to know for sure. Like I don't know how to leave yet because I'm not sure that that's like I'm not sure I tried everything. I'm not sure that this is what I want to do. And the whole logistical part really kept me stuck for a long time too, of like we live together and he had a
Exactly.
dog and like all of the things.
You can't afford to live alone. I had to force my roommate. I convinced her.
Yeah.
It
But
was, yeah, it's very logistically hard to
yeah.
leave. Yeah.
But when you hit that point of like, I cannot fucking do this, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And it all works out. Like in every situation with every woman that I've talked to who's hit that point of like, I didn't know what to do, where to go, how to do it, what like, and I just knew I had to. It's like that was the internal like fucking power that changed everything.
Absolutely. I hate when people shame people for staying, and I don't even do that.
Yeah.
And I've been through it, and I want to tell people don't stay, you're going to hate it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like when I first started this journey, I wanted to keep people from being in pain. I wanted to stop the suffering. I wanted to prevent it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, ooh, you know what though? I think the pain is necessary. I think the suffering is necessary. I'm not going to try to stop it. I'm just going to be here
Mm-hmm.
when you're ready to stop it. Like when you're ready to heal, I'll be right here.
Yep.
But I feel like the more I push people to leave, the more they feel shamed and pressured. And, it's like that victim shaming thing. Because the more you pressure them to leave, then they're like, I must be stupid.
Yeah. The
I can't
embarrassment.
leave, Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if they confide in you, like, I can't do this anymore, and you're like, well, you need to leave then. And then they're
Mm-hmm.
afraid to confide in you again. And I went through that. Like I would tell people, it's really bad. It's really bad. I think I'm going to leave. And they're like, okay, good. And then the next day I'd be like, he apologized. Everything's
Yep.
good. It's actually better than it was. And they're like, okay. And then, 2 weeks later, like, it's terrible. It's terrible. And they're like, leave then,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and so it was just, yeah, it was very embarrassing and confusing. And it, you know, made me feel less confident in, you know, I stopped trusting my own voice and my own thoughts and thought, man, I can't even decide what socks to wear today. Like this is affecting every part of my life because I'm afraid I'll choose the wrong ones, you know. Are these ones going to be too thick? And what if these ones rub and these ones don't stay up
Yeah.
so much? And then you have a panic attack because you don't know which socks to wear.
I
You
know.
know,
I
because you just
really,
look on.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. I think that the speaking to that embarrassment is so important. And one of my bigger goals in doing this work is to help bring awareness that so many women isolate when they feel these feelings and they feel like they're crazy and they feel like they don't understand why they keep going back or why they know in their heart they shouldn't be there, but they keep saying, I love you. Right. It's just like, it's so it's not normalized, which makes you retreat farther into your isolation hole when you're in it, and that fuels the 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 addiction, right? It's you stay in that instead of reaching out for help, instead of, doing what you can to move yourself forward. It's like that shame will eat you alive.
right. Yep. The only friend I felt comfortable calling when I was finally ready to leave was the friend who never asked me to leave.
Yeah.
You know, she was just like, "Hey, whatever you want to do, just know that when the day comes, I'm the one you call." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "All right." And when the day came, she's the one I called. And, you know, that was the most comforting feeling to know she literally moved her child out of her room into another room in like a 16-hour time period. She's like, room's ready. I'm like, oh my God, why did you do that? Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, it was very interesting. And when people ask me for advice, because of course, you know, when you go through something like this and you're vocal about it,
Mhm.
everybody calls you like, I'm in
Yeah.
this position. What should I do? Should I leave? And I'm always like, you'll know.
Mhm.
You'll know. And I'm not going to say anything else because it's your situation. I have no idea what's going on. I like to say the worst thing you can do to somebody that's going through traumatic experience is give them advice. Like just tell them you'll know.
You hold space and you help them see reality
Yep.
and get them from the potential land that they keep getting sucked
Yes.
into like what is happening in this moment in your relationship. One
Ask
of
them questions.
one of the most powerful moments that my therapist said to me that I still see today, and like when I reflect back on her, I'm like, did you want to just pull your eyeballs out, like listen to me defend him? And she's like, there is nothing that I could have said that you were going to hear, so. And now I appreciate that as the space holder and doing that for other women. But she asked me on one of our sessions, like, what do you like about him? And I was like, well, we used to take amazing trips and we used to. And she's like, no, right now.
Now, what do you like?
And I couldn't answer her. I couldn't
Mhm.
answer her in the session. I couldn't answer her in the days following the session. And I was like, fuck. And
Mhm.
and it was me coming to that realization instead of her saying,
Right.
I had to hit the bottom. You have to experience that yourself. And it's unfortunate that a lot of pain comes with the length of that process.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're listening and you have friends who are in this situation, like the best thing you can do is just say that you're there for them when they're ready. Like that it's encourage them to reach out to a supportive professional that can help them understand their feelings and
Yeah.
but
So
yeah,
true.
yeah. So in leaving and reclaiming your life, what have you found to be possible now that you're not stuck in those patterns and in that abuse?
Oh my gosh, possible. Like anything. It's so crazy. I'll never forget. So in my situation, my ex actually took my kids from me, removed them from my care, and would not allow me to see them. And due to our lovely justice system, that is legal. The parent can do that.
My God, our
And I
justice
couldn't do
system.
anything about it. So for 8 months, I couldn't do anything about. He had to agree. And if he didn't agree, it's the parent who, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the oil kind of thing. The parent who decides to take control gets control until the law is involved, and that takes months because there's processes. And Anyway, so during the 8 months where I didn't get to see my kids, I focused my energy and time on healing because I knew when I got them back, I wanted them to have a healthy mother,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure other women didn't have to go through what I went through alone.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting how fast everything came about and how my network of people just poured in. I mean, I'm talking like weird situations where I was my book, my journal was like in a very rough draft sitting on a table, and this guy saw it and was like, "What is this? I want to invest in it." And he like wrote me a check to buy 5,000 of them and was like, "Just pay me back when they sell." Like, how does
Wow.
that even happen? Like, it doesn't. So
Yeah.
just like all of these little synchronicities have happened over the last 2.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
very unexplainable. And I think the whole reason is because I was able to, instead of worrying about my kids, really focus on my healing and getting myself right. And ever since then, my dad was like, "It's amazing what you can do when you lose 250 pounds of dead weight." Like, Dad, that's so mean to say, but it feels
Yeah.
like, yes, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
You don't have someone in your ear telling you
Mm.
that you are less than, that the advice you give people is detrimental to their life, that you're
Yes.
just not intelligent enough, that you just don't know how to try hard, that you've never been challenged. And like, just,
Yeah.
I mean, everything I tried to do when he was in my ear was just, to push me down.
Mm-hmm.
And without that person, and now even the opposite with my healthy relationship in my ear, anytime I say, "I don't know, maybe this is too big for me, maybe I'm trying to do something too big, maybe I need to slow it down," and now it's the opposite. It's like, "No, this is in your heart, I can see it in your eyes, like you can't stop, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
Everybody has these moments, and the ones who succeed don't quit, and you're not a quitter, and I believe in you, and what do you need me to do? I'll stay up, I'll pack all these journals all night." You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
supportiveness of the people I have around me now, it doesn't really feel like anything's not possible.
Yeah. What
You
were
just,
some of the biggest parts in that 8 months? Like the things that you did or the healing practices you had, what was sort of most beneficial?
definitely therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Um, EMDR and brain spotting were my big, huge, monumental, life-changing therapy sessions. But I would say, like, for anybody, and maybe, people who can't afford therapy even, to give myself time to crawl up in a ball and cry. And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that. And it's actually very necessary, and not to feel weak
Mm-hmm.
because I'm crying. I was able to, no matter what was happening or what I was thinking, I stopped fighting with myself saying, "Oh, come on, you're so pathetic. Stop crying." I started saying, "Yes, you
Mm-hmm.
cry because this sucks and no one deserves to go through this.
Yeah.
And you don't deserve this and you didn't do anything wrong. And he's a monster, and you cry." Like,
Mm-hmm.
you cry. And then when you're done crying, you go do something about it. And
Yes.
so it's like letting myself have it out, and then taking some sort of step, like a progress step, even if it's tiny, like even just writing down, what do I want to do? What's the next step towards getting this Reclaim Journal published? Well, we're going to need a logo. Okay, I'm going to text somebody and see if they do logos. And if
Mm-hmm.
that was all I did that day, I was one step closer to having a business, and I may have cried all the rest of the day. But
Yes. I
uh,
mean, I think a lot of the times we discount how traumatic and scary those situations are, and how for how many years we've been living in a state of heightened nervous system, heightened anxiety, hyper awareness. Like when you come out of that, your inner little girl or inner children is like, what the fuck? Like, and they need to like deload all of
right.
all of it. And the more that you can sit in that space and allow yourself to just feel it, the faster the healing, the
Oh,
faster the
yeah.
integration. Yeah.
I feel like that's what led me to do Krav Maga. And that's what led me to start working out again, is like, I was able to have my cry session and be scared, because I was scared he
Yeah.
was going to hurt me. I was
Yeah.
scared it was going to go far enough to where I had to fear for my life. So I was like, okay, crying, I would be able to have that good cry. And then I would sit there and think, all right, I cried, but
Mhm.
crying's not going to protect me when he, decides to attack. So what can I do?
Mhm.
What's something I can do? And I'm a doer. Like I got to be doing something. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I could work out. I could take self-defense courses. I could get my business going. That way, if he does succeed and I don't make it, at least my legacy and my message lives on. So
Mhm.
that's something he can't kill, right? That's
Mhm.
something that's untouchable. So it's
Mhm.
like creating, going golfing and having time for myself, being outside. That always helped some. I don't know. It was just like, what can I do for me today? What can I do to feed my soul and my spirit? And what can I do to be outside and have some prayer time, get stronger? And Krav became a huge outlet because it was a way to get out aggression and anger and frustration too. And then also feel prepared to protect myself if I needed to. So yeah, like I had plenty of time to do things. I could have sat here and cried and watched movies all day,
Right.
which, maybe that would be fine. But for me, it was like, he's not going to win. He wants me. And that's actually what drove a lot of it is
Mhm.
he would love it if I just sat on that floor and cried all day.
Yeah, of
He
course.
would just think that was the best thing ever. And
Yep.
that's exactly what he's trying to do. Because when I left, I said, you can tell people whatever you want. You can tell them I'm psychotic. You can tell them whatever you want. I want my kids. You can have everything. You can have
Mhm.
the furniture, the money. You can have everything. I just want my kids. So, of course, I shouldn't have said that because that's the one thing he took from me is my kids. So I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
should have said that I didn't want the couch or that I wanted the couch. And that was it.
I really want the couch.
Have everything else, including the children. I just want the couch.
Yeah. Yeah. It,
Anyway,
it's it's a both and, right? We have to feel our feelings and take action steps. And if we do
exactly.
too much of one or too much of the other, we're like avoiding
That's so
the
true.
healing.
Exactly.
So feeling it fully, and I mean like when that wave hits you, you dive under. Like you
Mhm.
go all the way to the bottom, you sit on the bottom of the ocean and you fucking cry until you are done.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And the first couple of times that I did this, I was shocked that like when I let myself go all the way, ugly cry, snot, like can't breathe, like I did that for maybe 15 minutes. And then
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I feel better. Like,
Yeah, I love the wave analogy because if you just stand there trying to fight every wave, like you're
yeah.
constantly just tense and like
Mhm.
scared and but if you just duck under the wave and just like sit there, the
Yeah.
wave passes, you come back up and maybe you'll ride the next one.
Yeah. If you try to run towards shore, you get rocked, right? If you try to run, outrun the wave, it's gonna hit you one way or the other, and then you're gonna tumble and you're gonna get sand all in your pants, and like it's gonna be a mess.
And
But
what's interesting? So when you're surfing, you can't ride the wave until you go under it. You can't
under
even
it.
get in position to ride it
Yeah.
until you're under it. That's so cool. Did you already know that?
No, well,
Is that
now
where
that
you
you
were
say it, it
going with
makes
it?
sense. But I'm not a surfer, no. But
Yeah,
I do enjoy pretending like I'm a mermaid and diving under waves. So
there, there you go.
yeah, there's that. But I love that analogy because it's just true. Like if you try to outrun your feelings, they're under there, they're in there, they're in your body, they're in your tissue. We store everything.
Yeah.
Like being able to access those and move those and integrate it will give you the freedom. And that's what EMDR can help with. That's what brain spotting can help with. That's what tapping can help with. It's like, how do we get the body involved in
Mm,
doing what we naturally know how to do? Right.
yes.
Like dogs when they're feeling anxious they shake it off after something happens, they shake it off. Like we've forgotten how to do that as humans because we have too much analytical shit to move through to do that. But yeah, yeah,
So true.
so true. Yes. So feeling your feelings, taking time to do your work, getting prepared, feeling and moving towards action, grieving the past you, grieving the past relationship. Is there anything else, any other words of wisdom that you would give somebody if they are either trying to leave or in their healing process?
I would say both trying to leave and in your healing process. the thing that saved me was getting to know myself again. And basically that involves dating yourself again. So before you date someone else, or even I did 5 years of healing before I left. So it is possible to heal inside. And I think that's why I was able to be so strong, and probably honestly why he never actually physically abused me, because he knew I was not going to take that. He knew where the boundaries were because he had tested them. And he had chested up to me a couple of times trying to get me to back down. And I stepped forward, like, hit me, go ahead, see what happens. Why don't you try that? Like I was very vocal. I'm not easy to date. It's not an easy prey.
Yeah.
But I think that, when I started, my favorite thing to do, and it's in the beginning of the journal, is make a list of things you don't like about yourself, and then start crossing off the things you cannot change because we're not worrying about that anymore. And then cross off the things that somebody else told you was bad, but you don't necessarily believe are bad. And then pick one thing that you want to work on out of that list. And that's it. Just one thing at a time. But then make another list right after that of what you love about yourself. And it's going to be hard and it's going to be short at first. And then you can start adding to that as time goes on. But then you need to figure out, like, what things do you like? How do you like your steak cooked? Like those kinds of things. Like, what are the things you're involved in? Are you involved in any groups, or like, I was in MOPS groups and stuff, and are they things that fill your cup and bring you joy, or are they draining? Do you feel obligated to go, or are you excited to go? If you feel obligated and they're not bringing life, like, don't do it anymore, and just start kind of weeding out and creating more of a simple life where you really are just dating you and getting to know you. I stopped watching TV. I stopped listening to music that wasn't bringing me up, like what entertains you trains you idea. Like I didn't let anything in unless it was what I wanted to come out.
Yeah.
It just made a huge, huge difference. So I changed my environment, even though I couldn't change that he was there. I could change what I was listening to, and then got to know myself better. And I feel like those are the two things during healing that are going to make you more confident and be able to trust yourself. And I feel like trust is the biggest part of all of this, is trusting who you are. That way, like I said, looking straight in the mirror and saying, like, yep, you're my girl. We're a thing. We're doing life together. You've never left me. You never will, because you can't. So
because you can't. Stuck with me.
So just becoming your own best friend, and he saw the healing happen and he hated it. And sometimes it made things worse, but it also made things more clear.
Yeah, I say it's always a win-win. Either when you're trying to do your healing work and set boundaries, or you're getting to know yourself better so that you can set boundaries. Because when you start speaking your needs and setting boundaries, you're either going to see that that person can meet you and respects you, or you're going to see the backlash. And either way, you have information around what you're in or what you were in, and that coming back into who you are. Because whether or not you're with a full-blown narcissist, when you're in a dysfunctional relationship, you're enmeshed in some capacity and you've lost your sense of self. And so coming back to who you are, what do you value? What do you need? What do you want? What do you like? What do you hate? Like exactly what you said, and getting really clear so you can articulate that to yourself and to other people. Like then you're setting yourself up for a really good foundation to be able to eventually have a healthy relationship, because you are an independent person.
Yes, exactly. Yep. That was my favorite part of healing, is getting to know me again.
Yeah. I just released a self-guided course that I'm pumped about, which is exactly that. It's called Find Yourself Again. And it's a streamlined process that just helps you take control over the next steps. And come back into who you are. And it's really near to me because that was such a pivotal part of my healing too. And yours, it sounds like.
Right. Well, it's got to be something there, right?
Yes. So good. So people can find your Reclaim Journal. Where can they find you? Where can they get in touch if they want to explore brain spotting or other things that you're offering?
Sure. So the Reclaim Journal's on reclaimjournal.com. It was on Amazon, but I'm mad at them, so it's not anymore.
Okay.
So everything can be found on reclaimjournal.com.
Okay.
All the things, the brain spotting, the journal, a lot of free stuff. I have a free dating me guide that walks you through 3 dates with yourself. I was going to do one
Awesome.
date, and my friend was like, I don't think you're supposed to go that far on the first date. I was like, what? She's like, you should break it up into 3. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I love that.
So it
That's
truly is a 3-date dating
yes.
me guide that
Yeah.
you go on with yourself, which is fun. And the podcast is amazing. I love my podcast. Bree, you've been a guest on my podcast. So it's super popular episode. So that's Shattered to Unbreakable anywhere you listen to your podcast.
Love it. Yeah, definitely check her out. I can't wait for our parts 2 and 3 and wherever else we're going with the topics. But yeah. Well, it's been so enjoyable to hear your story and to get to know a deeper part of you and in your healing and how you've awakened. And I just am so grateful that you've spent the last hour and change with me.
Thank you. I was definitely honored when you asked. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, girl. I will talk to you again soon.
Okay.